statistics actually show that 80% of organizations believe they deliver the required customer experience, while 8% of the customers they serve
agree with it.
agree with the same. So that's one other challenge that we encounter, where you get to an organization and they feel there's nothing you're going to add. For you to be able to deliver customer experience that is required, you must be able to educate this customer. That's what makes the difference. Otherwise, what you do, anyone else can do. So they know there's something to look out for. When I go to that guy, there's information I'll get about the bank, and that will keep them coming back. We have people in the banking industry where you come and they're like, which one do you want? Okay. Many people don't think customer service applies in the education sector, but education is a service, and any service requires experience. Beginning of customer service is in the schools, because this is where we get to shape people. So who are you grooming? How are people experiencing them out there? They start from the school setting.
When you're talking to the students in schools, what are some of the challenges that you hear that these students say about being in school that parents need to know?
The treatment is not the same. A minister's child and a normal child are not treated the same, and that makes these kids feel like this is not an environment where I'm supposed to be because of the discrimination, and that ultimately affects every other thing about their experience that could also even affect their academic performance. And even feedback from the teachers themselves. I went to a school where they were like, I think teachers so and so should actually be chased from the school. They should be laid off. Almost 90% of the students. And now we are saying, in this particular instance, are you able to get this feedback from the students? Because they're communicating something about this teacher. And surprisingly, when I spoke to another teacher in this school, they also had a problem with that same teacher.
Did the school get rid of the teacher?
No.
When it comes to interdepartmental collaboration within organizations, do you find that the different departments understand that the other department is actually our customer in this scenario?
I think that's the biggest issue, because every department feels they're independent. And there's this lady in the crowd that said, for me, apologizing, I cannot. She said, I can never apologize, even when I know I have done that. Apologizing. I will do everything that shows I'm sorry, but I cannot say I'm sorry. So these are the people we have in the workplaces.
In your experience, if you look at all our business sectors here, the top 3 organizations that you feel have good customer care, what would you say?
The one I have really is Cafe Javas, which we all know.
I have a personal story related to Javas, actually. We wanted to have Javas in this seat where you are. And the people before Javas, like your gatekeepers, whatever, saying it's not possible, it cannot happen, these people have never been on air, they don't do this and all that. So we said, well, we'll try, let's see. So I go with my team to the office to meet these people. And thank you for coming on the show. We're very glad to have you here. Today, we are talking about customer care. Before we do start the discussion, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Thank you so much, Herbert. My name is Shamim Nalwadda, and I represent a company called Sheran's Customer Ignited. It's a customer experience consulting firm, and we're everything customer experience. Our unique approach is one that touches the behavior, attitude, and the way people behave, because we believe the 3 components of customer experience are people, processes, and systems, but the most important one is the people. You can have the best systems, best processes, but then the people will fail them. But also we're trying to address the issue of humanity. We're trying to restore humanity back into customer experience or customer service, because basically customer service is just being a good human being. And that's just about it, which we have kind of gone down on. And that's why we are experiencing different poor service in the different industries. We do this in a number of industries, which include the education, healthcare, hotel and hospitality industries, banking, finance, and all that. So it's basically an all-round. But also the uniqueness about it is that it's a 360-degree view of the customer. We look at the entire customer journey from when they walk into the premises until the very end, because then ultimately that's the experience. You can have a good start and a bad ending. So how do we make sure this is cutting across? So this is what we sell. But of course, like I've said, the human aspect, we are fronting the human being first before every other thing. And that's the uniqueness about it. We basically try to build a culture, because customer experience is a culture in any given sector. It's a culture. So we are more on that. How do you have people align with the vision and mission of the organization to ultimately deliver what is required of them? Yes.
You mentioned banking, hospitality, and all these other industries. In banking, for example, if you walk into a bank and they have challenges, bank waiting times and all this, how do you address this?
Now, of course, the first, where we begin first is understanding what the problem is, because even if the banking industry seems to be the same all throughout, different banks have different challenges in terms of customer experience. You might find it's the people, which is the biggest problem. Actually, you've walked into a bank and felt like they're doing you a favor, but this is your money.
True.
You get into the bank, but it's that bit of how well do people actually understand you are the customer? Do they even understand that you're the customer? Because this person is not looking at it, they're looking at their job and not the other side. Like, we're keeping the money, we have policies, we have controls, but this is the same person who brought their money who is coming to pick it.
True.
So how do you look at that aspect, and how do you address this particular customer? And of course, the biggest challenge that we are experiencing is the fact that people are not aware. There's so much to this customer that you're supposed to know in order to deliver the required experience. There are so much things around sensitivities, culture sensitivities, in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of economic status, but for these people, it's just a job. But experience is more than a job. It's connections, it's relationships with every individual customer. For them, it's a routine. I come in the morning, my job is to deposit, withdraw money, and that's just about it. But it's much more than that. And this understanding, some of these people do not actually know. They don't even know who a customer is, because to them, it's just this individual that is walking into the bank. But anyone you meet anywhere is a potential customer to the business, and how they experience you is what's going to keep them coming, or get them go elsewhere. The awareness of the many banks in the industry. Previously, you would look for a bank and you would not find one, but at the moment, they're just next door to each other. Are these people aware of this competition and the requirement that they're actually supposed to deliver? Or what is going to differentiate them is the experience this customer gets in this particular bank. Customers bank people, which is the experience, Like, I come today and I know there is a particular Shamim that does my things the way I want. I worked in the bank myself, and it requires that you understand these customers. I had a particular customer who I knew was really, I think, like, when he comes, he just wants to transact
and go.
He would actually pace up and get nervous. So you get nervous yourself, like, I am delaying them. Right. So I had to find a solution to that, because that was him. I had to understand my customer. So what I did, I actually knew his account offhand. So I just see him walking in, yes, and I just punch in the account, because I know he wants balances, he wants this. And by the time he gets there, I've actually already punched in like the transaction, and I'm just waiting to read and do the necessary verifications, and we would take a short time. And he was very happy, But
And he started looking for you, asking for you.
When he comes, where is she? If actually, for some of them, you realize that they don't even want to transact if this person is not there, because they're going to get a different kind of experience. Some of them will first call you, are you at the bank? Or I'll do my transaction tomorrow, just because. So that kind of understanding, how well do you know your customer? We live in a world where people don't want to know. You're the same customer that comes every single day, but this teller does not even know your name. But they have all the details, And beyond just that name, even when you call this customer, you have their details and you call them, oh, good morning, Herbert. there's just a way you feel about this person mentioning your name, even when they actually do not know it. But we have very little awareness of what's around us. Yours is to just receive this customer, verify. We are going to banks where people don't even greet, which is the basic.
Wow.
Yeah. A teller receives your check or transaction, a withdrawal voucher, and they're just
robotic.
Yeah. No greeting, no nothing. How are you going to verify these details, even if I was a fraudster, if we cannot speak? Because from the speech itself, you're able to tell that there are dots that are not connecting, and you could probably prevent a fraud. But when you don't have that, then it becomes a bit hard. So ours is really to get into these banks and say, how do we help your people understand who the customer is and be able to establish the required connections or relationships with these customers for you to be able to get them as repeat customers, retain them, loyal customers, but also to bring in more business, because they're like, where do you do your banking? Oh, I do my banking here, and their customer experience is just the best, which will definitely, because, you know, we believe in word of mouth. It's the best selling way. It's the best marketing tool. So you realize that, yes, this person has told me about their experience with, say, Bank X, and because of that, I'm intrigued. I want to bank with these people where this person is getting, because actually there is no other experience elsewhere. People are getting terrible experience from the banks, you know, small issues. I recently was in the bank trying to transact. I had tried the online because I never want to get into the banking halls these days. And I had tried several times to transact. I failed. I was getting failure errors. And then, of course, now I had to walk into the banking hall, which is the last resort, you know. And when I get in there, I meet this lady at the customer service desk. And I tell her my problems. I've been trying to transact for the last 3 days. And this is, then I'm like, oh, no greeting, no nothing. Oh,
no
okay.
apology, no acknowledgement.
So, nothing. So what kind of transaction were you trying to do? Oh, I was moving money from my mobile account to my bank account. They said, oh, that system is off. I'm like, why don't we know? Okay, that is okay. But how do you get to help me? You'll have to line up and make a deposit. I'm like, I don't like lining up, and I normally do my transactions online to avoid that. So is there a way you can help me? He says, so you actually have to line up.
You know, I went to a bank one time. I had a similar challenge, not online, but you know, I really don't want to go to the bank at all for these reasons. But I talked to the manager and told them, look, if you were to tell me to pay 50,000 shillings, for example, as a fee to go to the front of the line, I'll pay it very comfortably. Even if you tell me to pay 100K to go to the front of the line, I'll pay it very well. If you have a like express lane desk, there are very many customers who are willing to pay an express fee, not to spend time there. It is even separate from premier banking and all the other things. But to be able to cut that time element, the guy that you just gave an example of who was nervous, anxious, etc., is because he has other things. The more time he spends here, he's losing out on other things where he should be, right?
Yes.
So to him, paying 100K here to go to the front of the line,
saves him.
If I'm a business and I know that customer care is necessary, I don't know how to do it. You know I have to have some element of good customer care in the business, but I don't know how to actually set it up.
Yes.
And I have seen your contacts and I've called you to come in. Talk to me about the process of what you would do for me to have that good customer care in my business.
Okay, first of all, customer care is broad and wide. And for many businesses, the biggest challenge we have experienced is they think it's a one-off or it's an obvious thing. Someone knows how to smile, someone knows how to receive customers, but customer experience is more than that smile. I might not smile, but give you the best customer service because I've understood what you want. And also understanding what does this person want. Okay, but most importantly, for someone who is setting up a business, the first thing is to have an understanding who are the people I have on my team that are going to deliver this customer experience. We have an issue of people starting businesses and just recruiting for the sake of it. It's cheap labor and all that, no training whatsoever, and yet expect that these people are actually going to deliver. That's not going to happen. Some of the biggest brands we have train their staff every now and then because it's a continuous thing, you know? So what we do as a consultancy first, if we are to get into your business, is we audit and find out where you at, because we want to understand what your business is, who your customers are, and this is both for the internal and external, because the most neglected customer is also the internal customer, on whom the external experience depends. Because if your staff internally are not well aligned, chances are they're not going to be able to deliver the required experience, which explains the 360-degree view that we talked about. Everyone is in this whole chain of delivering customer experience, from the security guard to the lady that makes the tea, to the cleaner, you know, to the front desk person, up to the top level. And if those are not aligned, then most definitely. But we're also realizing that internally, people don't have the expected experiences or the care internally, because there's conflict. You know, this one feels they're being undermined, and this one thinks they have more authority. Then there's, you know, I'm the one who gives instructions around here. Then we have that's not my job kind of people, you know. So you realize that the entire business is suffering, and it's affecting the customer experience. Is high turnover. You know, you've been to those places where every time you meet a new person in the business, and that affects the business. For business owners, you might find, say, I have the right to hire and fire, and for them, they're even taking pride in it. But it's communicating something about your business. If your turnover is actually high, there's actually a saying that the external customer experience is a representation of the leadership.
I would agree.
If a business's customer experience is terrible, then
I would agree. The fish rots from the head. You get it.
Because we've also gotten instances where you're interacting with the people that face the customers, and they say, we have put up that complaint many times, but management just doesn't want to know.
True.
I called to book in at a hotel where I was telling this lady, you know, I do team building, so I was booking in, said, I have a team of 30, what's the possibility of getting a discount? Because, you know, the more the numbers. They said, here we don't give discounts. Not because we had had a good conversation before that, you know, we had talked and said, oh, I want to book in, these are the rates and what. Even the response on the phone was not good. And just to top it up with that, said, this is how things are here. You pay that much. So is it okay to talk to your boss? They'll tell you the same thing.
I'm sure you didn't go back.
You get it. I didn't even book it.
You didn't even book.
I didn't even book it because I'm thinking, if you can tell me this before you even see me, and I am presenting myself as a potential customer with business that is this, then how do I, you know?
True.
And I engaged another lady where I was trying to book in still with a team of more than 30, and she was just too busy. You know, someone picks the call and they're talking to other people while talking to you and basically telling you, you know, today you've called and it's a busy day here. Yeah, these are facts. And it happened just very recently. It's a busy day here. Maybe you put this on WhatsApp. So basically you're telling me you're not as important. So one of the biggest problems is actually training of the staff.
True.
You know, we want to get the money out of the businesses, but our staff are actually chasing away the customers because of how they talk to them even before they get into. And I think as Ugandans, we are really more of a compromising population.
True.
You get into any place, and even if it's a restaurant, the lady who comes to take your order, the way they take the order is like you either buy or and there is another restaurant.
In fact, they will even say you're not the one who buys it all every day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and to your face, by the way.
Yes,
not that it will be on the expression, it will be both on the expression and verbally. Like, yeah, if you don't want, you can actually. Yes. You know, and these are facts, you know. So, and going back to the banking industry where you said, like the service there is really bad. It's really, really bad. I've had so many people complaining about the customer care in banking. But what is in there? It's because people feel important. People feel it's prestigious to work in a bank, which it is. However, without the customer, you're not existing.
True.
You know, you have many bank accounts, most of which are dormant.
True.
And then what?
True.
You get a bank opening your account, no follow-up at all.
True.
Then who? Because the frauds will continue happening. Why? We don't even know our customers. You don't know your customer. You onboard someone, never transact. Because if you're starting, because it's a journey. Once the person is onboarded, it's a journey that continues until, and once you have them on board, you want to keep them. What are you doing to keep them? What kind of service are you giving them? In a market where really there's a flooded, there's so many banks all around that are giving the same service, some of them even cheaper. What gives you the differentiation? What differentiates you from the rest of the businesses? It's supposed to be the customer experience. But
I went to a bank one time and I was talking to the relationship bank or whatever. And this guy said, I had a request or whatever. And he said, before I can address this request, I do see that you have a relationship here with us. When I look at this entire portfolio, this request that you're making will not really make sense. However, we have this, service that you can use, attach it to this one, and you can achieve this goal. When you look at this goal and what you're requesting, this goal is much better. I tipped the guy because I felt that he really understood what we were talking about.
Exactly.
I've not experienced this since then or before then.
And one of the highlights for anyone to deliver a great experience is knowledge of your field of operation. That's the best. Why? Because the people that are coming here do not know. Someone has advised me, go and get a loan. But before you give me that loan, make that analysis. Find out, is it something that I need? Or, what's the purpose of the loan? Even if it's opening an account, what's the purpose of opening that account? You have very many products. I will come and someone told me about maybe a classic account, and that's what I know. In my right, I need an account, but that's what I know. When I come to you, give me the different options. We have this is what it does. We have this is what it does. So depending on what you want, this is what would be most suitable. And trust me, that customer will keep coming back and keep asking you everything about banking because you have demonstrated that you actually understand your job. We have people in the banking industry where you come and they're like, which one do you want? Okay. For you to be able to deliver customer experience that is required, you must be able to educate this customer. That's what makes the difference. Otherwise, what you do, anyone else can do. But educating them so they know there's something to look out to. When I go to that guy, there's information I'll get about the bank, and that will keep them coming back. That's why we're saying it doesn't have to be just transactional, because that is what we are experiencing. People are just transacting. Come, open the account, go. But it's relationship building at that particular point when you're opening the account. And for you, you're looking at this person as a customer, but you could need them actually elsewhere. So what information are you getting? And probably even the information you're getting in this discussion is supposed to help you make certain decisions or advise them depending on what their need is or what their aspiration is.
You mentioned that you work in the education space as well.
Yes.
For a viewer, actually, even me, I didn't know that, customer care in education space is a thing. But I can, now that, we have discussed so far, I can see how that might be. But break it down for me and the viewer who is watching to understand how you work in the education space and what you're actually doing there.
Education space is one space that I actually picked a lot of interest in. And like you said, many people don't think customer service applies in the education sector, but education is a service. And any service requires experience, And I think it's just also around how we have grown up seeing the education industry, and that has changed since obviously, because back in the day, you would see parents bring their kids from some place in the village, bringing them to some of the good schools in Kampala. But we have so many good schools in the villages, and which then means we can only have to upgrade the experience. And the other thing is that, still, like you said, because we say customer, people don't relate. And it's one of the biggest challenges that we have. People do not understand who their customers are. In the school setting, you can't see teachers looking at students as their customers. They are looking at them as students. And yet, without the student, you don't have a job, which then means the student is your
customer.
So how well you treat this student is going to help you keep your job or otherwise. So customer experience or customer service or care in the service industry, education specifically, is such a big thing. And for me, I actually believe that's the beginning of service. Beginning of customer service is in the schools, because this is where we get to shape people. The people we experience much later in the future
will have started here.
So who are you grooming? How are people experiencing them out there? They start from the school setting. So it's very, very, very important that in this setting, we are giving the best, because we are shaping people from different diverse areas, with different beliefs, different cultures in the school setting. And you as a teacher, as an icon, we're looking up to you to see what product are you giving us after this whole experience and all that.
For the headmaster who has had this and now wants to clean up their system, what steps do you actually take once you've gone in the school? You've done the audit, you've seen where they are, whatever, if they have a system in place or they don't. After that, what corrective actions do you take?
The first step is the mindset change, because it's where the biggest gap lies. Like we have said, they don't look at these students as their clients, because if you're looking at them as your customers, then the approach has to be different, because you need to understand your customer, you need to understand their needs, you need to understand their weaknesses in this case, and their strength, and how do you support them to make sure you're giving the end result. And for the teachers specifically, I think for me the focus should be on what are we putting out, the outcome of this whole experience, So for a head teacher, the mindset has to change. They need to change how they look at this whole situation of having students in the school and their experience, and how it impacts their performance and every other thing, because they're a very big contribution. For example, if I had my student in a school and they're always complaining, as a parent who is also a customer, there are chances that I'm going to actually shift them to another school, and you will have lost a customer. Okay, so how do we help this entire teaching and non-teaching staff to understand that this is our customer and what is the requirement? That mindset first of all, because you no longer look at them as students, but rather as customers. So looking at them as customers means every other thing has to change, including how well you know your customer, this student or these particular students in your class. The ideal should be you need to know each and every one of them, because each and every one of them is actually different. Make sense out of the experiences for the different students. Today the student comes and they're highly performing. Before you know it, there's a decline in their performance. This is an indicator something is happening. And in a world where we're living right now, there's so many distractions, that are going to contribute to these changes. Are you as a teacher able to understand your particular student and say, what is the problem? Go back, analyze, find out, have conversations with this child, and maybe get to know what is causing this, and then see how to support them, because you need them. It's not an issue of even when they go, there are others that are going to come in, because the measure on the retention alone should be something that the school holds dearly, because retention means you're doing a good job, probably. There could be other factors, but the thing is, you're doing a good job, therefore the parent can actually retain their kid and have them with you. So as a head teacher of a school, understand internally, like I said, because it begins with the internal stuff. What are their mindsets? Do they understand that actually the student is our customer? And if they understand that, how well do they understand their customer, each in their respective maybe classes or something like that? And then of course now the delivery of what do we do for our customer, what does our customer want, what feedback are they giving us, what are they saying, the complaints that keep coming up, what are these complaints aligning to? If it's performance, how does it impact on the performance? Because you see, even for a student that is not good enough, the experience itself can actually make them better students in terms of performance. How you experience a teacher, you know? We had a certain math teacher in school, and of course, you know that thing around girls and mathematics and what, and we believed we could not actually pass mathematics. But the teacher they gave us was actually an HSC teacher. You know, those ones that have done all the math. Personally, I did
Pure
think
one
that,
and pure
yes,
two,
I didn't
yes.
think that was the most appropriate teacher to give to a senior one class, because his was just, you must know.
Too advanced.
You know? And I remember in class, the performance was really not good. So does the school take a step further to understand what is causing this? Because it could just be an issue of you gave us the wrong teacher because of, you know, his level and the level of the students. And later when they got to change this teacher, it was actually a different thing altogether. You know, I was so sure I was not going to pass math, but later because they changed the teacher and the approach was different, I was actually able to pass mathematics. So is the school aware of such things and how they impact, so that you actually monitoring the students to get to understand there could be a problem with the students themselves. You know, students might fail to like a teacher maybe because of past stories that they've heard. Is that something that is contributing to their non-performance? And when you make a change, is there an improvement? Like, continuously make that evaluation, because these are your clients and you must be able to deliver. Why? We say that a customer is someone who has a need, a fear, and an aspiration. In this case, these guys are aspiring to become certain things. So are you helping them walk towards what they're aspiring to be? And how are you fitting into this whole process of the monitoring and ensuring that they actually get out what they want? Because for every parent that brings their child to school, they want success, they want the good results. No parent says, no, even if you get a pass, as long as you've gone through school. No, they all want their students or kids to excel. So how do you get in to support that whole process? Yeah,
I like that. When I don't even know which angle to ask this question from, but I guess when you look at all your clients that you've dealt with, you know, past, current, you know, if you can pick an example for us of the most intriguing customer service experience, tell us the situation that you found, the actions that you took, and the current result that they have. Okay,
there are quite a number, but one particular one, which is still ongoing, is a school I went in, and of course we did the audit, and there was these issues of attitude, because those are everywhere, not just in schools, even in the different
attitude with the
organizations.
teacher or students?
Negative attitudes within the teachers themselves, which is what I said. This is where it begins from. And you can imagine, if we can't work well together as teachers, so many things are going to be affected. Because I said it's a process. So if I don't work well with you, I'm probably not going to sit in for you for your class, because I will not ask for certain things. Even when I need help, I'm not going to ask because we don't get along well. You tell me something, of course, the negativity and all that, and that does not just affect the two of us, it also affects
everyone else.
The delivery to the students, because I mean, I'm going to be gloomy the whole day. Even when I get to class, it's not very easy to just transition from being gloomy to smiling, depending on what has happened really and the relationship you have. So the environment around is crucial in terms of enhancing the experiences for the students, so how well we work together. So this particular school, there were those issues, this one doesn't like this one and all that, and the communication gaps and what. So of course we did an audit where we got to understand that this is actually where the problem is. We had the first engagement, and in this first engagement they said very, very nice things about the school. And I was like, okay, so I think the people who told me did not tell me the truth, because what these people are saying is actually different. They're showing everything is okay. And of course, that was the first session. I asked them to write down a few things, what they think should be changed in the institution to help them deliver better. And what they wrote
was different.
So it actually informed what my next training was supposed to be about, because I had prepared a series of things. So now it had to change, because the problem was actually different from, what we're addressing. So yeah, we had those conversations. Even the third session, we had that. And by the time we got to the third, it was appreciation, because now we were looking at how do you communicate? How do you make sure even we have differences? And how do those differences impact, Because like I said, sometimes people do not understand. This is just a job they come to do, and that's it. But how does your job impact the experience of your clients, in this case, the students? So we had those series of sessions where we were learning about how to listen, how to appreciate each other, given our different backgrounds, how to understand each other, where we talk about the emotional intelligence, understanding yourself, which is a very big problem. We don't understand, we don't even know who we are. Then we can't deal with others, because, you're supposed to know. If someone says this about me, this is where I get to. So how do I manage? Very many of us do not have the emotional intelligence to be able to do that. And that is causing a lot of conflict in the different school environments and also in the different workplaces. So our trainings will really focus on that. First of all, we focus first on the sensitivities around the different cultures, understanding this is the culture around us. How do we deal? Because there are differences, definitely. You believe something different from what I believe, and we must have that, we must be able to appreciate the differences, but also work together. So we had to iron that out, talk about the communication, which is a very big problem, given that these are students. In the setting, it's more of, I give the instructions and you follow. But it's probably not working at the moment. Maybe it worked then in our times where teachers would say, and that would just be about it. But we have kids who are challenging teachers these days. What happens when a child challenges you, as an icon, as an authority? How is your response? Because then that is going now to determine every other thing. So, of course, we emphasize the communication, the professionalism, and all that. And by the time we were done with those 3 sessions, there was actually good improvement. They reported collaboration, teamwork, understanding. They actually even gave a scenario that this time so-and-so was not present, but everyone worked together to make sure we cover up. And we had such a very beautiful event. They had organized a concert. They said we had the best so far and all that. But, that awareness and appreciation, and knowing that, we are here to work, not to conflict, and there's someone who is a customer who needs to be served, irrespective of our differences and our different abilities, that appreciation. So we've seen that transition. It's still ongoing. We are looking forward to seeing better experiences with the teachers, the students themselves, in terms of performance and the actual experience in the school, because it's beyond the performance. You need to create an environment that then also enhances the performance of the kids.
There are some critics and naysayers, and they say that, we go in company retreats for the weekend, we go and have these trainings, the sessions you're talking about, we have them every 6 months, and for the 3 days or 4 days, when we come back, 1-2 days, it's working very well. After that, there's nothing, right? And there is concern, or the critics say that it is like, there is no consistency in the solution, in the results, so to speak.
Yes.
What do you say to them?
Yes, and I hear you. And I think it's also one of our biggest challenges, because customer experience is a lifestyle. It's the way you live. And it's that acknowledgement that I'm a human being. Sometimes I'm going to error, and sometimes I'll do the good, The retreats and all that, yes, they will work for a short period of time. And yes, it's not sustainable, And that's why we keep encouraging whoever takes this up that this should be a continuous process. If it's a retreat, it's supposed to be continuous because you're dealing with human beings. They break, they have other things that are going on in their lives, in their family lives, in their everyday life. So the retreats are supposed to help them do that break away from the work routine and all that. And it's one of the best investments that you can do, but you can't do it as a one-off. There actually has to be a budget, which most people don't, for these continuous retreats or trainings. Why? Because we're dealing with human beings. And just like you go to church, you don't say, I will go one Sunday in a year. And sometimes even when you go to church or the mosque, the message is going to be the same. But somehow it hits you like, oh, the sheikh said this, and I think I was getting off the line, So that continuity has to be there. Whether it could be quarterly or something, but it has to be continuous for it to be sustainable. But also importantly, for our trainings, which is where we're saying, we're not asking you to smile. We're not asking you to just greet. It should be a way of life, because when it's a way of life, it's more sustainable. It's a human thing to greet. So then you don't just greet the people you know. You greet every human being. Why? Because we said you do not know who your next customer is going to be. It could just be that greeting. We were in a room one time, and there is this lady that had walked in. She was walking in for the first time, and there's something they did where you line up. We had 4 people lining up, and then people lining up behind them. So one of the people, of course, had a very long line, while the others had like 2 people or 3 people. So they asked the lady, because it was her first time, how come you lined up behind this person? You barely know them. And said, they welcomed me and they smiled at me.
That's all.
That's all. That was her reason. And it happens. Why? Because you're probably meeting someone who is going through certain things. They have not had anyone say good morning to them, because these days actually greeting is not known. We greet the bosses in the offices, the ones that we know are giving us the bread, but then undermine people maybe like the security people or the people that are below us. And yet that greeting can be such a bridge, You start a conversation with a greeting. I just get up in the morning and say, good morning, Herbert. And the conversation starts from there, because we are saying customer experience is building relationships. So how else can you build a relationship? Greet the person. The option they have is to greet you back. But we also have instances where people are greeted and they do not respond.
True.
This happens in many workplaces. They're like, that one, he doesn't greet. So even for those, we are saying everyone should greet, because it's a human thing to greet. Because just imagine you're my boss. I come in the morning, say good morning to you. You don't respond to me. I'm human. I will be hurt. I've made all efforts, maybe even to put a smile and some kind of tone in the greeting, and you don't respond. And then you're the same boss I'm supposed to bring transactions to, for example, for authorization. It's going to become a little bit hard. But that is not the biggest problem. There's someone being affected by this relationship of ours, a client that needs their money to be credited. And I'm thinking, do I go now? So when I go, how do I again start the conversation? What if I greet him and he does not respond again? So you have all those questions going on in your mind. But we're saying, let this be a normal, usual thing. To greet, to say thank you. We have a lot of negativity in the workplaces, in the schools, and like people are too negative. And that can only create an environment that cannot deliver the required experiences that we want. You greet someone, they don't respond to you. You say thank you, or even the thank yous do not exist. Someone will break their back and no one is there to say thank you. Then the one time things go wrong, everyone is, how come this happened? This is a human being. And that's why we emphasize the bit of the human being in the workplace and the experience. So how do you handle these particular instances? So yes, the continuity has to happen for sustainability. Many places you find that they're doing this as a, by the way, we don't have a budget for that. Ideally, there should be a budget for people improvement. Why? Because people change every single day. If I was married and I got employed as a married person and I got a divorce, I'm a different person. That rubs me a certain way, and it will probably inform my behavior. You only get a few people that will be maybe understand their roles and say, I need to separate the two. But there are very many people who don't separate their things that are happening outside their life to the workplaces. Someone comes, they quarreled in the morning, and the whole day is like that. Like it's like they quarreled with all of you in office, you know? So because people change, statuses change. If I came and you employed me as a single person, now I have a wife and children, needs have changed, pressures are different.
Salary should change.
You get it. So I need that kind of reassurance every other time, all the training to help me keep focused and understand. And also the fact that the world keeps changing, different things. Like we said, for you to be able to impress a customer, they want you to have the information, the expertise. So the training is what gives you that. Then you're trained in customer experience, what to expect with the different technologies that are coming up. So it's a continuous thing for it to be sustainable.
I had a training one time, and this guy, he said there are 4 pillars for customer care. And he said, to the extent that you can master these 4 pillars, you will never have a customer care issue, right? So he talked about courtesy, the thank yous, and being a good, nice person, which you've talked about. He talked about knowledge, knowing the issue. Like you said, if the best way to help someone is to give them a solution, like the guy I explained to you in the bank and the examples you've given. He talked about timely resolution. You touched on that. You know, when the guy was coming in the bank and he was pacing, and you knew first, you had the knowledge, you knew what he wanted, and you were able to prepare everything so that when he comes, he gets that timely resolution and he's out. And he started looking for you. The 4th part that I want you to touch on was the concern part. And he said the concern part is your acknowledgement that we as the business have erred to the customer by delaying them, by the network not working, the example you gave, by the food being cold, coming late, whatever the case may be, right? It is not so much to say, I'm sorry that we did this, but some form of acknowledgement that we as a business have erred in that element, right? What are your thoughts on this?
Now, on that, it's a very big problem across. One, naturally, as Ugandans, we don't like apologizing.
True.
Apologizing means you're wrong, which could be the case, you know? So we have 2 instances where someone feels, I don't have to apologize if I am not wrong. Then the other is, yes, I might be wrong, but I will still not apologize, you know? That ownership, we don't have ownership, and it's a very, very big problem. And it still goes back to the thing of just doing a transaction. Because if you're a person that thinks beyond, you will reflect and say, oh, we actually made an error. How do we correct this? We look to blame. Who is it? It's not me, it's the chef who delayed. You know, I recently went and made an order. This guy said, when you reach, we shall make the orders so that we can prepare the lunch in time. They didn't do that. So they came much later and said, we're taking orders. They disorganized my class, but that was okay. So they took the orders. So I asked them, so how long is it going to take? They go like, 1 hour. I said, no, that's too long. Because you were supposed to come early in the morning to take the order so that we can have the lunch on time. And they said, no, it will be 1 hour, unless you want to have this food when it's not ready. I said, no, maybe maximum should be 40 minutes because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Like, there was no one wanting to take the blame. These people felt like it's not our problem. We were actually not the ones in the supervisory role. Ours is just to take the orders and deliver. So we have the bit of, you look for who, and yet the right thing is you own up at that particular moment, because this customer doesn't want to know every other thing. I don't even understand your system and how it works. I don't know who is the boss and who is not. My issue is I want the food in 40 minutes. That's all. You know? And even then, even when it's not possible for you to give me the food in 40 minutes, because customers are very understanding people, by the way. Very understanding. True. But we're never willing to make them understand. It's a thing of, you will have, like,
this is it.
This is it.
You know, I'm sorry for cutting you short.
Okay.
I've talked to many business people on the forum, but there is one gentleman that I talked to, and he mentioned something that changed my mindset. So he was in his office, and 2 employees came, and something had gone wrong. And so yes, okay, so what happened? The other one explained. What happened? What explained? So what do you think is the solution? Then the first guy that he asked said, you see, this is the person that did this and this and this. And basically he was blaming, like you're saying. And then the guy looked at him and asked, let me ask one thing, just before we even proceed, yes. Are you planning on taking him to court? Yes. Right, this is the question he asked. Are you planning on taking him to court? No. Then why are you blaming him like this? Move on to the solution that we need to be doing, It changed my mindset, because the blame does not get us anywhere. It is the solution that we resolve and correct. The default, though, among many people is whenever something has happened, I'm not the one to blame. Like you said, it is the boss who said, it was their email, it is the client who did this. They look to assign blame, and then later to find the solution on what the issue is. What are your thoughts or experience on this?
When we talk about the 360, we said everyone is involved, including the blame part, all of us, because it's a whole brand. When they say this organization does this, it's all of us. No one is going to come and say, except for Herbert. It's the entire institution. So whoever has been approached must first of all be able to acknowledge that we are wrong, even if it's not you, okay? And then give the customer a solution, and then probably work backwards to see where did we go wrong and what lessons do we pick and how can we do better to make sure this does not happen in future. But I did a training for an organization where we were talking about the ability to really apologize, because in Uganda, when you apologize, you have done it. And yet sometimes it's not the issue. So someone is like, why should I take blame for something I didn't do? And there's this lady in the crowd that said, for me, apologizing, I cannot. She said, I can never apologize, even when I know I have done that thing. Apologizing. I will do everything that shows I'm sorry, but I cannot say I'm sorry. Wow. So these are the people we have in the workplaces. Wow. And this she said to her own spouse. Wow. So imagine if she can't apologize to her spouse, when she has done that.
And she knows.
And she knows, what about her customer? Is she able to say, oh, we are sorry? For me, resolution of customer issues became, I think, part of me. That I think I have a plural, how do I say it? Like, I am always in the plural. We are sorry. We will do this better, even when I know it's not my problem. Like, now that is part of my system. You can't say, but even just saying I becomes a problem, because I know it's a collective thing. And when it's collective, this customer feels like, okay, they're owning up, so probably. Because like I said, customers don't want so much. But even when we say the apologies, or when we apologize, is it coming from that place of we are really sorry? Because there are also people who will just say, we are sorry, because we want to move on to the next thing. But are you genuinely saying the sorry, even when it's not actually you who brought about that issue? So like you said, the solution is more important. And the apologizing is equally important. My boss usually said when we went with him with all these things of the system, what is the solution?
True.
Yeah?
True.
Because these people actually have the solutions.
True.
Me as the boss, I might not actually know what happens in this, but because you're the subject matter expert, like he used to say it. So you come to me with a problem so that I understand, but also tell me.
What is the potential solution?
What is the potential solution? So that with my expertise at that level, I can put things together and we actually come up with a perfect solution. Yes.
There is, actually, before I get to that one, let me ask this one. When you walk into organizations, generally, what would you say are the common challenges they face in trying to turn the organizations into customer-centric first, right? What kind of challenges are they facing generally?
The challenges are many, but I think one of the biggest that I have noticed is the fact that the employees in the different organizations are not actually aligned to the company vision and mission or the goals. You'll find employees in an organization that have been there for even more than 10 years, but if you ask them about the company mission and vision, no idea. Because that is now the first problem, because there's going to be disengagement right from day one, because you do not have focus. You do not know where you're going. You don't understand what your contribution is to this organization, you know? So the most obvious thing is you're going to always be complaining about the organization, complaining about what's not working because you don't even understand. So that's one of the biggest challenges of seeing there's no alignment. People do not know. They come with their own goals as individuals, but these goals are not aligned to what the company is looking towards. So even when they bring things that are supposed to make things better, you realize that these are the same people that are going to be fighting them because they do not understand. And then understanding what is in it for them as they work for this organization. You know, for some people, it's just an issue of, I'm just here, this is just an address, it's for a short period of time, I'm looking to achieve this. But understanding that actually for them to be able to achieve their next goal, this is it, you know? Because you're building, say, a career, and when you go to LinkedIn, for example, you see the different places where people have worked, and these brands are part of you as an individual. They define you as an individual, and that's one thing people don't actually pay attention to, you know? The moment you say, I worked for organization X, it's already telling us who you are. So while you're there, can you work on that brand to make sure it's reflecting of you as an individual to wherever it is that you will go? And that's one big problem, you know? The attachment to the brand, the engagement. You will hear many organizations say, our staff are not engaged, but they don't understand their contribution to the organization. And it definitely has to affect every other thing, you know? When you receive a customer, if it's, for example, to say how long you take while serving a customer, it implies very many things. It talks about your efficiency just from the outlook. For this client who has just come in to get served, they're looking at you, you're taking 30 minutes on every customer or even more than that. You're not the right person to be in that position. But of course, because I need a service, I will sit and wait and all that. So you need to be mindful as well, because there are people, you know, when you go to that, I engaged a client who said they transacted in 2 banks. They needed a service from 2 banks. They contacted one. This person said, you're going to get this thing maybe next week on Monday. And this was like Thursday. So like, okay, but they needed the service, you know, like we said, customers always have a need and want. They contacted another bank. There was this RM, said, oh, okay, you can have it by tomorrow. You will have it. What you need to do, give me A, B, C, D, E, and we shall be good. Even when it was actually a stretch, he says, this person called me because they knew the documents were going to be delayed in terms of signing. They said, come, make sure you're at the bank by 3 p.m. so that when they close, you're actually inside. That proactiveness, you know, this guy has never gone back to the other bank.
Yes, of course.
They have made all kinds of praises about this. This guy is so efficient. And you might find they even just did basic things. But, you know, that awareness of analyzing what the customer wants, understanding and making sure that you're showing them you care. You're showing them you're with them. Because this one clearly, you know. Yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who says they worked in a certain department, and there was this lady who was supposed to go for a C-section. There was staff and they needed money, an advance or something. He served very many staff and he didn't even know. He says, I found the lady 10 years later at a function, and when they mentioned my name, she came and knelt in front of me and said, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting you in person. The guy was puzzled because he had no idea what she was talking about. Then she narrated, she said, there was this time I was going to give birth 10 years ago and I needed money. I called you at about 7 something. You were on your way home. You said you were driving back. You drove back, did whatever it is you had to do, and money was credited on my account.
Wow.
And
10
she
years.
had 10 years, and she had never. This person didn't even remember, even when they were narrating.
Wow.
You get it. But the thing is, he just took into account of what situation this person was going to be in, which is a very big emphasis for customer experience, the empathy, which we don't have, you know? What could this person be going through? Because she had tried to borrow money left, right, and center, and she had actually not gotten the money, but she was a mother due for delivery. So sometimes when we're in the different positions where we are, it's the policies and all these things, but there is a human behind who has a need, a want, a fear, how do you help those people? And that's experience. At a human level, really, how do you put yourself in this person's shoes? Because I keep telling people, tables flip. Today you're in this situation, tomorrow it's another person. Today you're my customer, tomorrow I'm your customer. Like when I worked in the bank, I served customers normally because it was my job, it was my role. But yes, I went the extra. But I didn't know what life was going to bring for me. Probably I thought I was going to become the MD of the bank and all that, but life didn't play out that way. And when I started the consultancy, some of my first customers were bank customers who said, we need you to train our people to do it like you did it.
Like you used to do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
I would never have thought about it that way, So how do we align ourselves?
That's reputation following you.
Your reputation, your brand, with a bigger brand. Because everything that affects the organization affects you as well. If you work for a brand and there's something they are known for, you get affected as well. Even you as an individual, you equally affect the brand, which is important because when you go out there, we know you work for CEO Insights and everything about you is CEO Insights. We don't see you as an individual. We are seeing you as the organization. So the brand, when you're out there, the brand. So while we are there in that moment, what's our contribution to make sure this brand stays at the top end? Because it's going to be part of your story. You can't say, let me skip this part. There are people who know you to have worked for that particular organization, because I think I have a friend who does not put a certain organization where they worked on their CV, probably because they're not proud of it. But we know you worked for that institution, even if you don't put it there. Yeah. And what does it say about you anyway? Eliminating, because you see, this is public information. It's on LinkedIn. I was your employer, and I'm checking through your profile.
And
I'm
that
not
part,
there.
It speaks volumes.
You get it. So people need to be mindful about that. And while you're wherever it is you are, do your best and give it your best. Because these are experiences. People remember.
From the businesses, people, whatever, all the clients you've worked with, right? What would you say is the sector in Uganda that really needs help when it comes to customer care improvement?
Most of the sectors actually need.
They're at the same level?
In my opinion.
They're all doing badly?
Yes, but mainly the schools where they're not even aware. Because very few schools are aware that they need the services. I've had people complain so much about banks, and as a former banker, I know there's so much that happens in there. The hotel maybe is the one that tries, Hospitals, where it's supposed to be at the peak, it's terrible. If you went to, the stories that have been said about the Malagos of this world, where you go and you're doing a consultation and the doctor is literally in the corridor while a patient is consulting, because it's time up and they need to go to maybe their private, I don't know, but education sector needs it, the health sector needs it, most banking. Those three, I think, took it for me. And
not that the viewer might think that we are knocking on any sector. Of course, there are other issues that might lead to, this situation you describe, a doctor prescribing in the corridor. And there are those who might say, well, as long as they're getting the solution, and it doesn't matter where the solutions come from, that could be the case. But the bigger point, the bigger question is, the need for customer care, basically, improvement in customer care. That's fine. On the question of the schools, when you do have a form that you use when you're doing the audit, like a questionnaire kind of thing, right? To assess the current status, right? So when you're talking to the students, particularly in schools, what are some of the, the feedback that you get or the challenges that you hear that these students say about being in school or the experience they have in school that parents need to know?
One of the biggest ones is the communication between the students and the teachers, where students feel like, it's a different generation currently. While in our times we had, times have really changed, which requires that the teachers as well change and see things from a different angle, because we have students who now express themselves. They feel if I can't express myself, then you're probably intruding on my rights, then you're not accommodative and those kinds of things. So you hear kids say, we express our concerns, but they're never addressed. Even the expression itself. I was speaking to a student just recently who said, this teacher is too rude that you can't even, The other challenge is, of course, the professionalism in the education sector. Teachers are no longer as professional, the language they use. I don't know if it's because society also has the same and they're living in the same societies, but a teacher is a different kind of thing. Just from the word teach is we get to learn from you. So what are we learning from you? What language are you using? What tone are you using? How are you dressed as a teacher? Because you're an icon, we're looking up to you, In school, kids are like, I want to be like, that teacher. So you realize that the students will constantly complain about their inability to express themselves. Currently, I think I had someone say they give us a lot of work, homework that is longer than our attention span, Then, of course, from the bullying, the punishments that are not fair, because it's a world of fairness. Where someone feels like I go to a certain school and the treatment is not the same. We're living in a world where people know there has to be fairness, Back in the day when I went to school, we had the light-skinned people. They would come to school with their hair grown, while the rest of us, you had to cut off your hair.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Currently, you can't do that because people are like, we have to be treated the same way. But you probably still have instances where that is happening, so they feel like we're being discriminated. Then, of course, the economic status, where you find that certain students that belong to a certain class, their attention is not as much as those whose parents are a bit more modified, in a better economic status. So you find the treatment is not the same. A minister's child and a normal child are not treated the same. And that makes these kids feel like this is not an environment where I'm supposed to be because of the discrimination. And that ultimately affects every other thing about their experience that could also even affect their academic performance. Yeah. So those are some of what I hear in terms of what the students are complaining about, the environment in the school. They want, because there is comparison, unfortunately, but different schools do their things differently. So you have a parent who has kids in different schools, they will definitely share experiences. For us, we went out to this, and they feel like we need to also have that same kind of feeling where if it's not, then it feels like these guys do not actually care about us. And in this world where there's so much focus on the me, you find these are kids that are committing suicide, you find these are the things that are raising the mental health cases in the different schools, the drug abuse in the schools, just because of they feel, I think this is it.
And the kids are actually writing these things on these forms.
Yes. And even feedback on the teachers themselves. I went to a school where they were like, I think teacher so and so should actually be chased from the school. They should be laid off. Like almost 90% of the students. And now we are saying, in this particular instant, are you able to get this feedback from the students? Because they're communicating something about this teacher. And surprisingly, when I spoke to another teacher in this school, they also had a problem with that same teacher. So it was not just the students, but also at that level.
Did the school get rid of the teacher?
No.
They did not?
They did.
Wow. Wow.
So...
What about, that's something else. What about feedback from the parents? Do you actually talk to the parents also as part of the process? Because I would imagine you talk to the students, you talk to the teachers, you talk to the head teacher. If they have a board, you talk to the board. If they don't, but then also the parents as well, because they are part of this thing.
I think for the schools that I've worked for, this is not something that has been really embraced. But like we say, it's an involvement of everyone, because especially in the education industry, you need all the stakeholders. You need the student, you need the parent, you need the teacher, and probably administration to make sure you're producing a wholesome child. But on the part of the parents, it's mainly, these are things that are supposed to probably be addressed, like in the PTAs that I think are dying out because parents do not have time to attend these meetings where these issues should be addressed. But ideally, like we said, customer service is not something the schools have really taken to that level. But because most of the feedback is just verbal feedback, and then it's a thing of my word against yours, or what I feel about you as a parent. I think they have money so they can say ABCD, or I can tell them because of this and that. But in our normal setting, it should be, we get feedback from the students, we get feedback from the teachers, we get feedback from the parents and the administration, because that way we are able to tell where the actual problem is, so that we are addressing the problem that is, cutting across, because we are saying, how do we address the problems? Because you'll find that, for example, one thing I've seen is you go to these different schools and every department feels they're important, which is what we are trying to address in the 360, because we are saying every single one of you is important. The finance feels we're the ones that collect the money that pays you. You find the academic part, they're like, it's academics. What are you guys saying? You're talking about what? But then it has to be balanced, because everyone is important. Every aspect of this is important. So, I've been to a school and I don't know if the academics guys will give us that space, because they feel like this is a waste of time. You're going into sports, it's academics, but there's a very big contribution that sports can bring to this academic side. If this child is failing in academics and they can excel in sports, it gives them some kind of feeling of, oh, at least I have something I can be good at, and it could actually enhance their performance in the school. So how do we strike this balance? So normally it's an issue of the audit is assessing all these other stakeholders to make sure we have a clear picture of where the problem could be. Because like I said, different schools have different challenges because of the setting, because of the leadership, because of, the recruitment and all that. So every institution is unique in its way. That's why you have to know, because a parent who is complaining in this particular school, you might find in another school they're not complaining. I had a parent who said they had their kid in one of the schools and they had increased the school fees. So they had a meeting and they're like, but how come you increase the fees and what? And the parent raised their hand and said, but this money we are paying here is not as much. I pay so much in another school, And this is a parent now who had two different students where they're feeling like, no, you should not be complaining. But is it a valid complaint? Probably yes, because for the parents who are here, who probably have all their kids here, they feel the school fees. So, that balance of knowing that you're going to get some parents complaining in this area and then in another area. And
they also compare your policy with the other schools as well.
Definitely.
To see that.
So fairness. How much sense does your policy make? Because this same parent is a parent elsewhere. They are customers elsewhere and they're probably getting better treatment. So what explains why you are not able to deliver that awareness? So the dynamics are different because the settings are different, but at the end of the day, we must be able to hear what are the parents complaining about and what solutions can we provide to make sure we're giving the students the required experience. Yes.
When you look at organizations that you've gone to and you've given them this assessment form, what do the staff say? The common things that they talk about that are going wrong in the organizations that need to be upgraded?
Many, of course, highlight the disconnect between top management and the lower leadership as a very big issue. Like, yes, we get these customer complaints, but even when we put them out, management does not actually action or, it's the same thing over and over again. Then, of course, the working environment where they feel sometimes they don't have enough necessary resources to help them execute. The other bigger issue is the different departments in the different organizations where they are the untouchable departments. Yeah, and yet we are saying there's a connection. If it's an IT department, it has to collaborate with operations to be able to serve the customer, because if the system is off, I need you to communicate to me that it is actually off, how long it's going to take, so that I know how to manage the customer or I know what to do next. So of course, some departments are more important. If it's in the banking industry, you realize that there's a huge gap of the head office people feeling a certain way, and the branch people also feeling like we're the ones that do all the donkey work. We're the ones that customers keep shouting at, and those people are just there. You call someone and they're at head office and they're comfortable telling you, I'm out for lunch and it will take an hour, and you have a customer sitting in front of you who you literally have to say, you have to wait for another 1 hour for us to be able to resolve.
For no other reason that someone is at lunch.
Is off their desk, or they are on leave, or, and then of course the continuity, the BCPs are a problem where someone is on leave and their work can't continue. Like someone is comfortable telling the customer, so-and-so is on leave, which shouldn't happen, because as a business you're supposed to continue with or without staff. You realize that for some of these people, if someone is on leave, for example, people are comfortable telling a customer that so and so is on leave. You can't say your documents, who was handling them? Oh, they are on leave.
2 weeks.
That is not something the customer should hear. Or yes, it's okay because they might need services from that particular person, but who else is there to support? So you realize that that's also a challenge. Of course, the most common one is the salary. They'll keep complaining about the salary that comes out every other time. And then sometimes they feel like the field people, they're not facilitated enough, which is a big problem actually, because some of them are not permanent staff, but organizations need to know that they're part of the brand, and whatever it is that happens, how they present themselves to their clients is equally important. It's an experience, because if a field person comes to you and they're looking the way they are looking, customer is like, is this a brand I really want to be associated with? So areas around the facilitation of such people, the temporary staff, and every other thing that happens internally where there is clear discrimination because maybe it's an outsourced arm and therefore does not have privileges of those that are in the organization, because outsourcing is the thing these days. But is it at the cost of the quality of delivery of service? And that's one thing organizations need to look into and pay attention to, because you need this person to be present like this is their brand, for them to be able to deliver, because they're human beings. They also have insecurities where someone feels we do so much and the payment is so little. So maybe how about I don't pick some of the customer calls?
What role does technology have in all this? Can it be applied? How can we use it to enhance customer experience?
Actually, technology is a very good tool in enhancing customer experience. Very good. We are underutilizing it, if I must say, because these days you get to probably know about a customer before they come to you. If you're going to make a sale, you can just go read about this person and get to know who you're going to talk to, and probably what things appeal to them. But
Did you do that before you came here?
We're not even doing that. Yes, I did. I had to, because information is everywhere, And on the part of the customer, because we are saying get to know your customer so that you can get to know their pain points. You can get to know the solutions you give to them. You can proactively engage them, because you've gotten to understand them. The only thing that is going to help you do that is technology, Many institutions or organizations don't even know who their customers are. They don't have a database to understand how often does Herbert come here? What does he come to do? What would he need because of, the trends of, and what was his status before? Has it changed? Because we constantly keep asking customers to update their information. What are you using that information for? How many customers are you serving? In terms of checking progress, if this year you started with 50 customers and you only had an increment of 5, What does that mean to you as a business? What do you need to do? Are the customers returning, or they are coming as one-offs and that's just about it? All this is technology that you can use, How do they want to communicate? Is it by email? Do they prefer WhatsApp? Do they prefer calls? Do they prefer SMS? Technology. And this can just help you. Even going back to, say, the banking industry, where a teller receives a customer's transaction and they're punching it in. Just there and then, the system has a display of everything. Imagine you walking to the till and it's a fortunate day, it's your birthday, and I just punch in, I see your name. Oh, hi, Habat, how are you? I automatically see what business you're in. I get to see that it's your birthday. And just as we finish transacting, I'm like, oh, thank you. And by the way, happy birthday. You have that information. This customer is going to just be like, how did she even get to know?
Right.
And that is already, But you have everything. You can't even call the customer by their name. You have the anniversary dates because this is information that we get at the point of opening the account. What are you using that information for? Send out those messages. It doesn't have to cost even you at the till. And I keep telling people, because they're like, there's a department that does that. Then why are you here? Because you're doing the basics that everyone can do. I can also receive that check payment and make that, But what makes you exceptional is the extra thing like, oh, thank you, by the way, Herbert, happy birthday, I hope you did happy, depending, because now you know your customer because of the information that you have gotten. When you close the day, go through your customers, find out, who did I serve today? How can I make it better for them? What was the experience like, But we move so fast because it's an issue of serve, go, serve, go.
Right.
You don't even get to know. Some of these people are going to be your next employers, could be your next employers, but because you don't take the time to understand who you're working on, you can't get the information. The information is readily available. Readily available. Are you using it? And that's, for me, that's technology, How fast you send the messages, the response time. These days we have WhatsApp. You can get customers' contacts. They don't have to call and then it takes them forever, Before you engage a customer. On phone, if they have a complaint, no. Because this person works in this industry, their knowledge probably here, you can't lie to them because they are very familiar, but that's because you've gotten prior information about them. We know people who know people, like the circles, you meet Herbert, you have a conversation and he knows almost everyone that you know.
True.
How are you handling that person? Because sometimes in the industry, what I've seen, because I don't know who you know, I will treat you anyhow. And then eventually, when I get to actually know that you know, I'm like, we are sorry, sir. It should have been ABCD. How about, for me, I think the most sustainable way is just treating everyone the way they deserve to be treated. Before you embarrass yourself, you make this customer swear and all that. Before you know it, they know the MD, they are calling their childhood friends, and you don't have your job because you didn't think, but you just didn't do your job right also.
And the administration, the staff, or not the staff, the administration, the leadership.
Yes.
What kind of feedback do they generally give of what they are seeing, the challenges that they face in customer care in their own organization?
The leadership,
especially from the staff.
I think for the leadership, there's also a problem around there. I don't know if they're really so involved to know what's happening at the bottom, because these days I see many of you call people and almost every time people are having meetings at the cost of the customer service. The customer is not being served because a certain manager is in a board meeting. So I think there is a gap there in terms of the leadership understanding how critical customer service is in terms of, I think it's more, they talk about it, but the actualization, because I've also had instances where most of the leaders in customer experience struggle with the issue of management will ask us what's the return on investment because it's not tangible, it's just an experience. And many of them fail to, highlight that. But realistically, like we said in our approach, if you have the people aligned, then every other thing, because you can buy the best systems. But if people don't know how to use them,
of course,
then you're wasting time.
Of course.
You can have the best processes, but if the individuals feel like we won't follow, we shall bypass, because the processes themselves are done by the people. So if I have an understanding of my role, then I will clearly also, align it, because I understand. If I don't understand, the process will be there, but it will not be effective. So there is the need to align the top and the bottom to make sure they are speaking the same language. For many organizations, you find that the language is different. The top will just say, these people are just lazy, without understanding what is causing the problem down and how the customer is being impacted. If I'm the customer-facing person, and probably I'm not able to give you the actual feedback the customer is giving, even the reports you have in the rooms are not going to be useful, because you have wrong information. You don't have the actual information. How engaged am I to receive the customer complaints and deliver them as is? If the customer is complaining about me, is it going to get to the top? Because we also have institutions where it's known that person's customer service is terrible and bad, but this person is there.
Yes.
All the customers know.
Yes, yeah, the example you gave, yes.
All the customers know. But then, so what's the problem? Do you just don't care about your clients, that you can leave this person who it's obvious does not have customer care in this position? Is it a political thing? Do we even matter to you anyway, So there is a bit of disconnect, and usually the reason as to why prior to our training, we also do that analysis of, we talk to top management and find out what they think the problem is, which, yes, we take from that perspective. But of course, as top leaders, they also have their own perspective about the staff. Then we also get down to the staff and say, what are the issues you're experiencing? Then you'll find that it's a thing of these ones think this way, and then we also think that way, and there's that misalignment usually.
When it comes to interdepartmental cooperation, I mean, you mentioned you described the silos, will accounts do it, will all that. When it comes to interdepartmental collaboration within organizations, do you find that the different departments understand that the other department is actually our customer in this scenario, or is our client in this scenario?
I think that's the biggest issue, because every department feels they're important.
They're independent.
They're independent. And with our 360-degree view, we emphasize that. All right? Even in the training itself, there's a training we had where we said, come and prove to us that actually your department is the best, and it's what the organization needs to survive. And it was an interesting conversation where the marketing guy said, but we can outsource HR, we can, outsource sales. These are basically saying these are not important departments. And the technical guys were saying, without us, we are the ones that lay the cables, and if then, and everyone was trying to defend their department. And you could tell everyone felt like we are the ones that are needed. If we don't hire you, then if we don't pay your salary, then it starts with finance, then it starts, with IT, then it starts with, but it's a thing we keep emphasizing in our trainings. And we even break it down, because we want to give the general training first and then break it down for people to actually understand in the organization, who is my customer? Because internally, they don't look at themselves as customers. And yet, yes, they are customers. Because if I have an external customer and I can't get the support I need, say, from the operations person, then I can't serve.
True.
And how you treat me also, or the relationship we have, is going to enable me serve this customer. If you can't communicate to me well, then I'm going to give wrong information to the customer. And it's going to affect the experience. If you're a finance guy and you haven't paid my salary on time, there's a problem,
On how I treat the next customer.
On how I treat, because I came, it's salary day, say 20th is our salary day, and that day the salary delays. I already drew programs and plans, So if you say no salary, then 21st, first of all, how am I going to come to work? Because there are also those scenarios where someone has actually spent their money. We've worked for an institution where their biggest problem was delayed salary payment, and this person in the finance department was kind of untouchable. They paid as and when they felt like, and it was the biggest issue, you know, leave alone salary, their allowances. You find the finance people feel like they're doing you a favor to give you this allowance. So you will put in that claim, it will take a week, a month, and when you call, say, when did you send that email? You resend the email. But, you know, this person worked. They probably worked extra hours. What is your role as a finance person? Make their payment, make their life okay. Let them feel motivated. If it's facilitation to go to the field, it should come in timely because I've called the client, booked an appointment, so any delay gets me to look a certain way because they're looking at me as unserious. How am I going to close the deal? But I also can't move because I need the facilitation. Things like the procurement department, it will be a simple thing like toner for a printer. Any delay. If a customer needs a statement, I can't print it. If they need any document, I can't. To you, it's just toner. It's affecting the experience. You know? It will take an hour before that. In that 1 hour, how many clients are we losing? You know? And that's procurement. HR, customer experience, the staff, right from when you put out that ad for the job, the experience in the organization. We have HR people who will call you for an interview, tell you it's at 10 to 11, and you get interviewed at 3. You walk into the room, you know, and the look on their face, there's nothing.
Why
like,
are you here?
Sorry.
You came too early.
You know, you have been seated. First of all, you're nervous because it's an interview the whole time. Like, if you have high blood pressure, I'm sure it just keeps increasing. Then you get into the room. No one is coming to communicate that there is a delay. You get into the room, no one is saying, yes, sorry. But we have people that are coming for these interviews that are even working elsewhere because this is the working, you know, you've asked for an hour off from your boss tactfully and it's taking you 4 hours. How are you going to pass that interview, even if you are the most suitable candidate? You get it. The response to the applications will take forever. That's if they respond. You know, and you respond after 3 months and it's either a regret or they are giving you the opportunity. But how do you feel about this institution that you're going to work for? There's already communication, which these HR people are not paying attention to. So if you recruit me, it can only mean I'm going to just work like you because this is what I saw when I before I even got into it, and it was okay. So you can't say now when you're late, please communicate. When you did not communicate these delays, you know, when it's important that you respond to an email. When you didn't respond to my emails even before I got into, you know, so the different departments also have to understand. If you have brought me on board for the HR and I'm being trained for a role, because the idea is if you're coming maybe from one bank, you should understand this role because it's more or less the same, but the cultures are different. Orient me into the culture, help me understand what my expectations are, give me that training that gets me to be good to go and execute, then ask for the delivery, like the results. But before you do that, people are training on job, you know, and even the training is not sufficient, and yet the expectations are way up there. Then you portray me as someone who does not deliver. Oh, we got you as a good fit from that institution, but the results you're giving us, but what role have you?
What's the environment I'm working in?
You get it. You're getting into an institution, and this happens very often, where someone has been acting in that role, they bring you, and this particular person who they have not given that role is the one to train you and to probably guide you on every other thing. This person is a human being, you know? How do you make sure there's that alignment? And because you're supposed to be aware of these things. You can't say it's normal and it's okay. These are human beings that we are dealing with. So right from the start, there's that friction of they brought her, I was able to do this job, they didn't confirm me, and they brought a person who I have trained, so they don't even understand or appreciate why they have trained this person when they could actually do the role. And it also makes it hard for this person to also fit in, you know? And it makes every other thing a problem. We've had these instances happening everywhere. the credit person, when you're doing that recovery, you can speak nicely to this customer and still recover. You know,
The kind approach.
that kind of approach. Find out, because sometimes they're genuinely defaulting. For example, you gave me a salary loan and now I lost my job.
True.
I don't.
You raise a good point. I'm sorry. We had a money lender, the president of the Uganda Money Lenders Association, on the show, and he touched on this point specifically. He said, if you're collecting, you have two choices. You can do the kind way, or you can do the harsh way. Harsh. But he said in the collections overall, when you use the kind method, it gets you much further.
I've had those instances where they say when they are giving you the loan, they'll send all the nice looking ladies.
Yes.
And then in time for recovery,
they send the
guys, those ones that are, but really, many times, really, it's having those conversations and understand where the customer is coming from. If you need them to make a commitment, they make that in writing. But in a way, you're also showing them, we actually trust you. Because in the first place, by the time you gave me this loan, you trusted that I could pay it. So right now, why is it? And sometimes it's not even the customer's fault. It's right at this point where they were giving the loan that the KYC was not done well. I was not able to pay from the first instance.
KYC, know your customer.
You get it? So because you didn't do know your customers so well, I'm now defaulting, which is what we said, before you give me this loan, have you done the due diligence that is needed to be made before you come to make me look like, and where there are exceptions, like I got the loan and now I don't have a job, what's plan B? Because yes, you need to recover, but realistically, I'm also struggling, and you're dealing with a human being. They have school fees, they have all those things, but they also have their loan. And it's an unfortunate event that I lost my job. So how do we handle, how do we manage, how do we put it at a human level?
There is, you mentioned that, the need for customer care cannot be spot check, every quarter, every 6 months, whatever. So in your consultancy, do you offer like a retainer service with these companies where you can do the 6-month training, but then, periodically you will go in to ensure that the course is still maintained? If there's anything going off, you put the guardrails to realign on an ongoing basis. And then after 6 months, have the main training session, so to speak, and then continue course correcting?
That would be the ideal, but it's a challenge that we experience because, like I said, someone wants you to have a training and see instant results.
True.
We have paid you so much, and therefore we must see the results. But like you're putting it, it's a journey where, first of all, even before the training, you must know where you are. As an organization in terms of customer experience, then that will guide you on, what do we need to do and where do we want to go. But then you'll also find that the system in itself, there's no system to track the experience, the customer experience, like the feedback is just feedback. There's no accountability where, people are being measured in terms of how did you serve this customer, or giving that customer an opportunity to say, this is how I was served, I was not happy with this service, And of course, the politics of, it's a subjective thing, You have served, say, 1,000 customers and they're happy customers, and there is this one customer who is complaining, and we are saying your customer service is bad just because of one customer, which is the thing of the job engagement, like your manager getting to know who you are and what you're able to deliver. If you have a gap in customer service, because we have those also, because we deal with individuals who have attitude problems, who have anger management problems, and we have those instances, which is the awareness we talk about. Is your manager aware that you have these issues to say, when this comes up, you just let the customer know, let me call the manager, and you speak to them because you can't handle at that particular point in time, But are those systems there in the organizations? Because they need to also make that investment to do the tracking, to know where does your money go. When you invest in a training, first of all, what is it like? And what do you hope to see? And how can we achieve this? And how do we track it? Because like we said, people get back into, that mode. I can be so good after the training, I can now after this training, I'm going to treat my customers better and all that. But then after some time, because of life and also being the human being that you are, you get back to that mode. So you need to have those systems that help you check and help you understand where is the improvement. If there is no improvement, what is causing this and how do we... So normally what we do after training, of course, we recommend that you need to have the system in place where people are actually accountable. You can see the input and what's coming out for that to happen. And then, of course, we recommend that you need to do this more often. Don't do it as a one-off, beginning of year, and that's just about it. People need to be reminded every other time. So we recommend the quarterly trainings, and then we also do mystery shoppings where we check in and say, okay, we trained, is there any change? But ideally it's a collaboration. We can't do it on our own, because there's so much that can happen in an institution. And also understanding now that we don't have a system, what else can we use to measure? Because sometimes when there's no measure, there's no way of, making that assessment and saying, this is what we found, this is where you need to improve, this is how you need to improve, So if there is no system in place, what are those? Because there are some small organizations that are just growing, what do you put in place? But most importantly, because sometimes even the systems will not work, this individual that you have, are they able to make that assessment by themselves so that they know this day, this is the value added for their own good. While the organization, yes, will benefit, but for you as an individual, when you wake up, if you join, say, the organization and they had 20 customers, what is your contribution?
True.
We've gotten now to 30. How many of those 10 did you bring on board? What's the value? And then you can also now have conversations with your bosses because you have
something
the figures,
tangible,
yes, something tangible that you can speak to, and you also come up as someone who understands what you do, and that's how you stand out. But you find people in organizations, even for their particular roles, they don't know. You ask, how many customers do you serve a day? Abaja serving. You get it. So you also not into the organization and you don't understand.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, a while back, and he mentioned that at their organization, they have procured the best system to, ERP to use in the whole organization. And once they put it in, it did not get them where they wanted. So the bosses or someone, within management said, no, we need this other system. So they bought a second complementary system, also the best. Okay, system did not change. Then they said, okay, maybe it is a customer care issue. This inter-departmental, someone goes on leave, the other one has a marriage or whatever, it takes forever. So they try to iron that out. But it still did not resolve the issue. So one of them said, well, I think now it is the culture, just generally, of the organization were like this. Of course, that also didn't happen. The top leadership is extremely bothered by this. They don't want to, the only thing they want to see is a streamlined, well-oiled machine running, right? My question is, when it comes to customer care, either internally or externally, versus the company's culture, how do these two work together?
I actually feel customer service is the culture in itself of the organization.
Okay.
Yes. What is the culture? What happens if a customer complains? Is it something that is taken seriously, or is it because it's a particular customer complaining? Because a customer complaint is a customer complaint. Say, for example, if you went to Javas, if you complained, it doesn't matter who you are. They have to address your issue. But we also have organizations where some customers complain and nothing is done, while others. So is our focus on the customer? And if our focus is on the customer, everyone must know that the customer is the focus from the top to the bottom. Which means we must have that culture that irrespective of what's happening, the customer comes first. You don't have instances of, ne customer oyo naye ndowooza naye yabadde mukyamu. You don't have that because the customer is not wrong, because the customer is the reason we are here. Without the customer, we're not here. Then you can't get statements like, even if you didn't eat here, we can survive without you. You get it? You know, it doesn't matter if you come or if you don't come, we shall still get other customers that we have. It's more than just the products that you have. It's more of the service, because you can have the best product, like you say, best systems, best all those things, and it still doesn't work because the people internally. And unfortunately, why it's important, or why I think it's actually the culture, because these same people also are living with the customers themselves. So they will have the conversations. You called for what? Ewafe. You know, like mpazi ngolina gumanyi. Such statements, and of course they're clearly showing you we don't really care. So what is the culture of the organization? Because the culture is what gives you direction. Even when you're a new person in this institution, there are things that you just won't do because it's not a culture here. Like the person, even if they didn't say anything, just by looking at you, they're basically saying this is not how we do things around here.
True.
And then you just keep yourself in check. If it's time management, it begins from the top to everyone else. We have places where they're going to put the clock-ins and they're supposed to be there by 7 and leave by a certain time. But the leadership does not, you know, when you come for you even just pass, you don't even have to clock in. These are individuals, they're observing. Like they say monkey, do. When you don't do, they will not do. So what is the organization culture? True. Because that's what defines how everyone, you get into a institution and they're like, you're new. You look like you're new because of the way you do your work. Like you're overly, you know, and you get things like,
you're ambitious.
Like, because for us here,
we don't do this.
And you find yourself
coming down.
Yeah, and getting into that culture. I have a friend of mine who said, when they had just gotten into one of the banks, they had come from a bank where things were done a certain way. If you're going to do a presentation, you have to, like, actually things come off your head.
Right.
Because you know this customer, you understand them, you have. And when I got in there, it looked like they were showing off. Like, how do you come and you're just getting things off your head? People have to carry the books to, you know, and they had to tone down because they were not fit for this type of culture. And they also had to start carrying things.
Wow.
But, you know, so what is the culture around how are things done and how, even if it's customer service, what is the culture of customer service? How are customers in a particular organization treated? Are they given priority, or, you know, it's some and not others?
Let me ask this question, and I think it is good because the businesses that will be mentioned deserve it. In your experience, if you look at all our business sectors here, the top 3 organizations that you feel have good customer care, what would you say?
The one I have really is Cafe Javas, which we all know. Maybe I have not, or maybe because I'm a customer experience person, I notice more of what goes wrong than what goes right. Because you will still find there's things that, you know, I don't know, which are your top 3?
I would say Javas is one for sure.
Okay.
They put a lot of effort in their work. I have a personal story related to Javas. Actually, we wanted to have Javas in this seat where you are, and the people before Javas, you know, like your gatekeepers, whatever, saying it's not possible, it cannot happen. You know, these people have never been on air, they don't do this and all that. So we said, well, we'll try. You know, let's see. So I go with my team to, you know, the office to meet these people. And truly, like they had said, you know, they were gatekeepers. They said, no, we cannot do this. No, we cannot do this. But I could see Mandela, the guy himself. I could see him there. He was standing, talking to some other guy, right? And of course, I was here, I had my, you know, uniform on or whatever. And the gatekeeper said, no, you cannot talk to the guy. So I was heartbroken, but he kind of sensed, I think he kind of sensed. And then, they told me, you have to go, we can't do this. So I turned to leave and I walked a long distance. But then when I was walking, I had, behind. So I turned around like this and I saw the guy himself. He was running, chasing me, coming behind me. So I stopped. I was in shock. I stopped and I looked at him and he told me, what's the issue? I told him, well, I wanted to talk to you or your representative about your thing. This is what we do. He said, yeah, okay. He held my hand. He took me through these guys to his office, right? Closed the door, picked up the phone and called some other guy. He gave me the number and everything. He said, deal with this guy, go and talk and tell, what we're doing and all that. I talked to the guy, made arrangements, whatever. I have told this story. I don't think I'll ever stop telling this story. And it showed me that the customer care that you see at the waiter level, at the cleaning level, comes from the very top. The guy saw the big picture, he saw the strategy, he saw he said that this one we need to do, give some leeway. He understood me as a client, what I was looking for at the time, right? And I always believe that the experience that we have with an entire organization is with the first person we meet representing that organization. If I go to put gas in the car and I'm dealing with a pump attendant, that pump attendant is Shell to me.
Exactly.
I will go and say, Shell people don't know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Because of this guy, right?
Absolutely.
I will say, this restaurant doesn't know what they're doing because of this person, the waiter that came. So to the extent that the customer care philosophy does not dwindle down to the bottom, you've lost it. But if the person at the bottom actually understands what to do, the issue is resolved. So I agree with you. Customer care, CJs is to me my number one. Also, when it comes to customer care, and this is really why we wanted to have them on the show, and hopefully we'll have them coming on the show. But to your point, the other two. Let's think about them.
Maybe just to add on that other issue, because it's one of the issues I've highlighted initially, where people have to understand that your position is a representation of the entire brand.
True.
And even with the policies and procedures, you're the one who best understands your role. As a security guard, you're the one who understands your clients, how you receive them, not the top person, in as much as they have the vision. You understand? And it's two-way. The organization must empower you, but also what makes you exceptional is the fact that you can understand your role and say, boss, this is an exception. Because there are always exceptions, always exceptions. And many times I go to places and they say, no, that can't happen. I'm like, no, it's actually wrong for you to say it cannot happen. Because already you're showing me you're not important. But it's an exception. I have come. If what makes you different is you should be able to have a conversation with me, understand where I'm coming from, and then if you take it to your boss and they bash it, that's okay. You have done your job because you're saying, look, I'm the one who interacted with this customer and I think they need an exceptional approval or something like that. If you can't do that, and the best you can tell me is, no, you can't, then you're not good at your job. Because your boss is not going to, he doesn't know what happens when you're opening the cards.
Of course.
For example, we had a lady who used to transact at the bank, and her only problem was because the askari would open her car and bang her boot. It was an expensive car. She had an issue with that. So we have told you to check, yes, but there's this particular one customer who has an issue. How do you address it? Can you ask for an exception of some sort? Yes, we understand there are security threats and all that. But that's why you're there. You're the expert in that field, and therefore, if there are exceptions, you should be able to defend them. Otherwise, like you said, it's going to be the security people there they don't understand what they're doing. It was one, and you might have even been right, but where there are exceptions, are you able to analyze those exceptions and seek guidance where you need to, or make those decisions if you're empowered enough to make the decisions, for example? And you look very funny. You're putting policies into practice, like they did say you can't, and your boss is coming and saying no. You look like you don't understand your job. You get it, and yet for you, you're actually following what you've been told to follow. So those two things: understanding your role and gaining trust from your boss that you actually understand what you do, so that when you present the exceptions, they are passed.
As a Muslim lady,
Yes,
running this business, one that does not have immediate tangible solutions, what sort of challenges do you face running this organization, or have you faced running them in this context?
I think there are many things around it. From the fact, before even I'm a Muslim woman, the fact that you're a woman, and of course, what you bring to the table and the investment that is required. For some businesses, they feel like it's really, it's not an investment that we ought to make, that is mandatory for us to make. But the challenges are there. You will go in and someone feels like, well, what is she going to change about it? Some people will not even listen, because realistically there are biases people have about religion, about gender, and which are the things we keep talking about in our trainings. Like, you must be aware of those biases and not let them block the bigger picture, because I'm here providing a solution for a problem that is existing that you're aware of. Some of these institutions you go to, you're actually a customer and you've experienced it, you know? So yes, I can't say it's not challenging. Some places you go, they will not give you the opportunity, maybe because they're thinking, what is this Muslim woman have to say? But I think on my side, it's an issue of me presenting what I have to present. The decision to take it or not is really up to you. So I will come present without feeling like, oh, I'm a Muslim. My focus is on what am I bringing to your business? What solutions am I providing for you? So all these other things don't define. It's more of what value am I bringing to your business? If you're able to see it and appreciate it, well and good. If you're not able to, I think it's a normal life thing. Sometimes you're going to get rejected. Sometimes, but what is it? It doesn't stop me from keeping on going, because you will find others that will appreciate it.
True.
You will find others that will actually say, oh, this is what we've been looking for all along. Like, I've had clients who are not sure, because yes, you're saying it and it's a good idea, but they're like, okay, let's try it. So my thing is, I need to deliver beyond the client's expectations, so that they're actually like, oh, I was actually wrong about what I thought or felt, and this is the direction. And for me, really, for this, it's more even for the impact that we have to create. Like the results are what push me. If I'm going to do it for you and it's not going to give results, we would rather not do it.
True.
Because I want to see the change in all the institutions, in the education, because it's basically a community thing. Like, we just want to change the community and how we experience each other, because that's ultimately going to give us a better way of managing each other, managing conflicts, communicating better, getting away with these biases, because many times they stop us from achieving so much. You can achieve, but because you're thinking, I don't think I like Muslims. But not all Muslims are the same.
True.
They're amazing Muslims. Not that Muslims are not amazing.
True.
We are amazing people, from the perceptions some people have about us. I was interacting with a friend who said, you've changed my perspective about what I think about Muslims. I think Muslims are rigid people but you don't seem to be. So just by interacting with me and giving me the opportunity and chance, her perspective and mindset changed. What if Muslim customers are your customers? What happens? You have to know how to deal. I've been to institutions where they're like, we have especially the schools in Kansanga, we have an issue of language barrier. I'm like, yes. What are you doing about it? Because these are your customers. You can't say, I'm quitting my job because we are serving Eritrean customers. What can you do about it? learn the language, it's a plus for you. Maybe you'll get another big opportunity. So don't look at it as a challenge that cannot have a solution. It's an opportunity for you to learn that language. How about you look at it like that? And for some of the schools, they're like, you're actually right. I think this is what I have to do. I can learn the small words, and then, because these are your clients, how do you deal with them? It's the same thing that happens when you go to restaurants and they have those menus that have those things. When you're doing it, are you aware of your customer population? If they are Muslim, you need to change your menu, because as a Muslim, for example, if I looked at a menu and the first thing I see is pork, my mind already,
Right.
even if I was to take a soda, I feel
Right.
like,
You touched it.
you know. So that awareness really, and mindfulness and being open-minded and not letting us be covered with our biases, because most of these things are actually not true. We've had things that are said about people from different tribes, but when you actually speak to them, it's not true, but it's something that has been given a blanket. They're like, Baganda, those ones, it is A, B, C, D. And you deal with Baganda and you're like, are you sure this is what they said about them? Yeah, so it happens, it's life, and because I have that at the back of my mind, it doesn't bother me. I come to you, you can either accept me or it's no crime, because even me in my life, there are people I've accepted and those I haven't. So the most surprising thing I encountered while trying to sell the solution to one of the schools is we met a top leader who we had a conversation with, very unprofessional, like walking, and that is experience, like that's customer service. We walked in, they were very unprofessional. Everyone kept walking into the office. And by the way, this is not just for this particular person. I went into another school, like 2 other schools, and it's the same thing. People just walking, no privacy, very unprofessional. So I walk in, we tell them about the solution that we had, and they went like, we've actually trained our teachers very well, because we are always training them. Remember, we have experienced them.
Right.
Yeah, and professionalism and all that. And said, we've done everything that we had to do, and we actually think the problem is with the students. Maybe you need to come and train the students, which was okay, but then what I defined initially of they don't even know these are their customers. Because I'm imagining how a bank says, let's collect all our customers and teach them how to behave towards us. It's you, Said, maybe you need to train the students who are the customers.
True.
And the interaction with every other person is right from the gate when we were getting in, how the security guards handled us. Like, you could clearly see there was a problem.
Right.
And that's the other issue we experience. People don't actually want to acknowledge that they have a gap. Like, the things you're going to tell them, we've told them before. But if you have told them and they are not actioning, it's a communication to you. Maybe you need to either check yourself or find another person who can say the same thing, which is what we also emphasize in our trainings about effective communication. We can say the same thing and it's interpreted differently. You can say something and I believe you because of whatever it is I have about you, and I can say the same thing and it's not believable. So it's already pointing you to, there's something not going right. So that's one other challenge that we encounter, where you get to an organization and they feel we are there already. There's nothing you're going to add. And the statistics actually show that 80% of organizations believe they deliver the required customer experience, while 8% of the customers they serve
agree with it.
agree with the same.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Shamim, I would like to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you too.
You have shed light on this customer care beast with the dark underbelly. And I want to also wish you success in your endeavors. I know it is an uphill battle. We have been in this track for a long time, and the mindset shift takes time.
It does.
So to the extent that you can overcome it and achieve your goals, we really wish you the best of luck and success in everything that you do. Thank you.
Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes.